Talk to me about Trump, the impeachment, the re-election, and the ramifications of that on the economy or the next crash.
Okay, I will be happy to do that, but just a quick footnote before I do. And on June 20th, 2016, I stood in front of a camera in the London Eye. We actually rented one of those modules to do some filming. And I said, the UK is going to vote to leave the EU. They're going to Brexit. And you should short sterling and buy gold now to prepare for that eventuality. Now, at the time, the polls, the pundits, it was 75% remain. David Cameron was happy. The UK was going to remain in the EU. I said, no, they're going to leave. For months afterwards, I got notes from people. Thank you, Jim. Thank you for putting my kids through college, because I did that trade and made a lot of money on that. In the last week of October 2016, I was actually on book tour. My book, The Road to Ruin, had come out then. And I was going around the world, and I was in Australia, Europe, and New York, with days before the election. In one case, it was 4 a.m. New York time, election day. The polls hadn't opened, but we were broadcasting in Europe with Francine Lockwood at Bloomberg. And I was asked who's going to win the election. Oh, I was with another guest, and they asked the other guest who's going to win the election. And he said, look, we're all going to be in bed by 10:30. I mean, Hillary's going to win in the East earlier than her husband did in 1992. We're not going to have to wait for results from the Midwest. This will all be over. We'll all be in bed by 10:30, nothing to it. And Francine, a very nice lady, turned to me and said, Jim, who's going to win? I said, Trump's going to win. I said, we're going to be up late. It'll be close, but Trump is going to win. And she, she's a smart lady, but she kind of like turned white and got flabbergasted and said, well, is the turnout going to be different, or are the polls wrong? I said, both. And I said, and I just took her through it. And I'm very analytical, but here's my point, Brian, when you ask about Trump.
And how did you know that?
It's model-based. I have a model that I use Bayesian statistics, something I learned at the CIA. I hadn't used it a lot before the CIA, but I learned it when I was there, and it has huge applications, rarely applied to politics. Let me just give you a concrete example of how you can deconstruct this. So betting markets, I did this on both of these, but betting markets were, it was about 75% Remain and Brexit, and, 90% for Trump. And I want to say, the wisdom of crowds. Look at these betting markets. There are thousands of people or millions of people, whatever. We can distill the wisdom of crowds. What's the name of a book by James Soroki? People don't understand the wisdom of crowds. The wisdom of crowds that he talked about was, how you're at a county fair, how many jelly beans in the jar? And the point is, 1,000 people making random guesses, if you average them, will be more accurate than a physicist sitting there, measuring the dimensions of every jelly bean. Guess the weight of the cow. Again, 1,000 people will be more accurate on average than some scientist trying to guess the weight of the cow. That is the wisdom of crowds, but it only applies to simple problems. Generally, the more complex the problem, the more expertise comes into play. But people don't understand bookies. The reason the bookies were giving Remain short odds was because the money was not equally distributed. In other words, the people betting on Remain were big shots in the city betting, 10,000 pounds. The people betting on Leave were, everyday, Brits betting, a couple of quid. And the point is, bookies don't make odds based on the number of bets. They make odds on the weight of money. So all the money was on the side of Remain. But in a voting booth, money's not involved. Every vote counts equally. So what I said is, don't look at the odds, because the odds are made to short where the money is, so the bookies don't lose money. Tell me how many bets were made each way. I want to know the number of bets. I don't want to know the odds, and I don't want to know the money. Tell me how many bets. Well, if you asked that question, you found out that there were more Leave bets than Remain.
Okay.
So that was a poll, but you had to know where to look for the data.
And you were seeing similar things in Trump in the election.
Correct. Okay. So, Trump was even easier in some ways because Hillary was ahead in all the polls. So, okay, you got to read the footnotes and read the methodology. There are more Democrats than Republicans in the United States. That's true. So if you're trying to do an accurate poll, you would have more Democrats in your sample. But they oversampled the Democrats. A good sample would be, say, 54% Democrats, 46% Republicans. But they were doing 58-42 or 59-41. So they were oversampling Democrats. And within that sample, the Democratic sample, they were oversampling African Americans, but that creates another skew because African Americans will vote 90% Democratic. So if you include African Americans in your oversample, you're excluding white Democrats who would vote for Trump. Well, that's what happened. White Democrats voted for Trump. So, but if you knew what I just said, all you had to do is take the polling result, look at the sample methodology, reverse engineer it, and every time I adjust it, I got Trump ahead by 2 points.
Hey, it's Brian Rose, founder of the DeFi Academy. I've told you my 4-week crypto bootcamp is amazing, but don't take my word for it. This is what my students are saying.
The DeFi Academy was an amazing experience for me. It took me totally out of my comfort zone.
In this course, I was challenged, I was held accountable, and pushed to do things that honestly weren't always easy.
It's been phenomenal, and I can't believe we're already up on our 4 weeks. It has flown by.
Going through this DeFi accelerator by far was one of the best courses I've taken.
You do this course, you really get into the nitty-gritty of the activities that will make you comfortable with decentralized finance.
Thank you so much to Brian and everyone at London Real and the DeFi Academy for even putting together an amazing course like this.
Anybody else that wants to do it, please sign up. It is well worth the money.